Secretary Kerry, you're out with a terrific new book I've read, a very personal memoir called Every Day is Extra, based off of your service in Vietnam. Give us a sense of why you wrote this book. Why was this important at this particular point in time for you to write this particular book?
Well, thank you, David. I think my book is actually a roadmap for how we fix some of the problems that we face today and the antidote to where we find ourselves, because it's about being engaged in the system. It's about working with a guy like John McCain, coming together from different places, finding common ground, being able to compromise, being able to be bipartisan, and going after accountability, rule of law, making things the way citizens expect them to be. And I think there are a series of stories that I lay out in the book, which really, I hope, will encourage people to understand that we can get out of messes, that America is remarkably strong, that we have great institutions, that historically they've stood up to the test, and I believe they will now.
So one of the problems that you identify specifically is climate change and the environment, and you particularly are near and dear to the ocean for reasons that you explain in the book going back into your childhood. But I want to read a short passage of what you said about climate change. You said in part, the current president of the United States has eagerly assumed the role of cheerleader in chief for capricious choices that will cost lives and treasure. What is the ordinary citizen to do about that?
Vote. I mean, the most important single thing that citizens can do is be part of the political process, be part of the debate, help to organize, support a candidate, become engaged. In the last election, when our current president, whose policies on climate change are dangerous, when he was elected, we saw 54.2% of eligible Americans come out to vote. That's to be compared to Barack Obama in 2008. It was 62.3% of Americans who came out to vote. So that difference is the difference in an election. I mean, the real story of 2016 is not who turned out. The real story is who didn't turn out. And I think that the best thing Americans can do is live citizenship, be engaged in making our democracy work more effectively, hold public people accountable.
Elections have consequences, as you have said. One of the consequences of President Trump being in office is to really, apparently at least, undo an agreement that you worked long and hard on, and that's the Iran nuclear deal, specifically. What is your hope that, in fact, we can get back to the table and get to a deal with Iran again?
Well, there will be no negotiation, in my judgment, between Iran and the United States while President Trump is president, because he has proven himself to be unwilling to live up to a deal. And so no Iranian leader could survive by coming to the table, because it would look like capitulation. It would look like they've been bullied into it. And you can imagine in our country, whether any politician would survive if it appeared to be weak, or that person. So I just don't think there's going to be a negotiation in the near term. It's questionable whether there will be one in the long term, but I suspect there are ways to get there and have a reasonable thing. What President Trump has done with respect to the Iran agreement is really to alienate the people who came to the agreement with us. France, Germany, Britain, Russia, China, they're all staying in the agreement. And Iran is, staying in the agreement. So only President Trump has pulled out, and he hasn't achieved any of the goals that he wants to achieve with respect to that. And now many people believe he's pursuing a policy of regime change. Well, history has taught us that we don't do regime change very well. Moreover, the likelihood of a change in Iran will produce somebody far more like Ahmadinejad, or a hardliner, than it will some kind of Jeffersonian Democrat. So I think he's lost leverage. I think he's actually put us in an isolated position. He's farmed out American foreign policy to other countries who now could have a greater impact on what happens in the Middle East than we do. And I think it's very unfortunate. And by the way, the deal is the strongest. It is the strongest nuclear deal on the planet today. And it gave us unprecedented insight to Iran's program and left us in an extremely strong position to, all of us, enforce the Non-Proliferation Treaty.